Hi, Mr. Neil Turbin. How you doing?
Hey, Cello, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Great, great. First of all, thanks for joining us today, and thank you for this great opportunity to
My
interview
pleasure
you.
to be here. My honor, and glad to have the opportunity, and really looking forward to coming to Brazil and rocking out for everybody, and getting to meet everybody and talk to everyone and hang out and play some crazy rocking madness.
Great, great. It's a great pleasure to me talking to you. So let's start talking about your next shows in Brazil. And how many times did you play in Brazil?
Well, I was supposed to play in Brazil in 2014, but I've never played in Brazil. It was supposed to be a tour that got canceled for whatever reason. It had nothing to do with me, but it was a tour when I was with Onslaught, touring with them in North America, in the U.S. and Canada. Brazil and Chile were part of that, offer that I was given. But then I don't know, for whatever reason, Artillery was the only band that went over from our tour, and they didn't bring me over with Onslaught, but I had a visa to go to Brazil. But this is strictly, Neil Turbin, Fistful 40 tour, Fistful of Metal Alive, 40th anniversary. So I'm very excited to come to, three major cities in Brazil and have the opportunity to perform there and give, Brazilian fans and people the opportunity to see, what they've never seen before, because even if Anthrax has played there or comes over to play, they don't play most of the songs, or there's songs they don't play off of Fistful of Metal or even Armed and Dangerous that I co-wrote, and also Spreading the Disease. So I'm going to be playing all of those songs, everything. And of course on the festival at Campo de Mayo, that one is not a full headline set. That's a 60-minute set, but the venues that are in Vila Vela on April 21st at Carreira Rock Music Bar. So April 21st, Carreira Music Bar will be performing, and also in Sao Paulo on April 23rd. That's where you are, right? At the Jai
Of course, of
Jai
course.
Club.
I will be there. I will be there
Excellent. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person, Cello.
on the front row,
Cool.
screaming. Yeah.
Coolness. Well, excellent, and look forward to seeing you there. And so I have a great team of players, a great team of partners in the band, and also a great company, Som de Dharma. I just want to tell you about Elitan Tomase and also Susie Dos Rios, who are doing a fantastic job of bringing me over and putting me in those wonderful venues, and also playing the CDM Metal Festival on April 22nd over in Campo de Mayo. Am I saying that right? Campo de Mayo, Campo de Mayo. Do I got it wrong? Do I got it right? Close enough.
Yeah,
Close enough for baseball. So we're looking forward to the CDM Metal Fest as well, and really looking forward to Carreira Music Bar and Jai Club shows. April 21st, 22nd, 23rd are the dates I'm playing. So consecutive back-to-back dates. And to tell you about the band members with Neil Turbin, Brazil, that we're playing with, I just wanted to mention Rafael Gonçalves, the drummer from Brave, Brazilian band. That's an awesome band. So we're supporting the national Brazilian scene and having, actual players that are part of, some amazing Brazilian bands. So you should check out Brave, of course, if you haven't already. And also Bill Martins on bass guitar from Hellish War. So a great Brazilian band, and, very talented guy, very, very awesome person, Bill Martins. And also I have some amazing, incredible guitar players that I'm very excited to work with. And we've been communicating already, the whole band has been in touch, and we've been working through material. So we're not just, we're not going to phone it in or dial, paint by numbers or anything like that. It's not a cover band. It's not a tribute band. An Anthrax tribute band could not play what we're playing, and I'll explain. But because it's not learn the first album and listen to the record and just play it live, because we're not doing that. That's just not what's happening. Yeah, we're playing those songs, yes, and we're playing Armed and Dangerous songs, and we're playing Spreading the Disease songs that I wrote.
I got it.
But we're playing my arrangements that I played when I was in Anthrax. We're also playing, a more intelligent version of those songs, and I'll explain what that means. But just to finish up on the personnel, I really wanted to mention that I have an awesome guitar player, Talis Statkevicius. Talis Statkevicius. He's from the band Hamatas. And by the way, Hamatas will be also opening the show and support on the tour. So they'll be playing in all three venues. They'll be playing with us in Sao Paulo, but they'll also be playing, in Vila Vela at Carreira Music Bar. They'll also be playing CDM Metal Festival in Campo de Mayo. And really excited to have Talis, great guy and very talented, amazing guitar player and a thrasher through and through, really awesome to have him on board. And as well as one of the, well-known, phenomenal guitar players of Brazil, who's known for his, virtuosity, as well as, just a very experienced and very cool guy. He's, been to the U.S. a number of times. He's also been involved with, music companies at NAMM, manufacturers, companies that produce guitars or guitar equipment and so forth, and has been at the NAMM show a number of times and performed here. And his name is Jader Minosi from Jader Minosi Interstellar Experience. And, we're a unique band in the sense that, we're obviously connected over the overseas, over the continents, but that has not prevented us from communicating. Even some of us don't have, Portuguese or English very well under our belt, but we can use translation, and we still communicate, even though it's, we're not speaking exactly the same language. But then some of us are very good at English, and that would be a few of the guys in Brazil are excellent in English, really good. So, I got to get my Portuguese up to speed because I'm still trying to learn, but I go to a number of countries, and it's hard to learn every language. I mean, I'm trying to learn the songs and learn the lyrics and learn learn a lot of things. So I try to focus on the music, but the languages are beautiful, and it's great to, communicate, because one thing for sure is music is the universal language.
Yes.
It is a language that everybody speaks, even if they don't have the same dialect from, different countries. So they can understand and relate to the music and the vibration and the feeling. So I think, it was once said to me by B.B. King, personally to me, from here to here, and that is a connection with people, that we want. And that's what we want to do is connect with people. Even if we can't speak the same verbal articulation, we can still, communicate through the music and the love and energy of music and the beauty of it, and, lift people up, and also, connect, provide a really strong vibrational energy and killer, delivery of these songs. And I think, there's no better time than the present to come and bring something that's unique. And also I wanted to mention that there's some really amazing bands playing with us. Okay. So I wanted to tell you about those because it's very important to me. And also the production companies that are involved, because, they're doing a really good job, and they're really working hard, and, they deserve recognition. So I just wanted to mention that on the shows on the first show, which is in Carreira Music Bar in Vila Vela, and that's, gosh, I hope I can,
Yes.
I hope I get it right. Espirito Santo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, so I'm really excited, and I have, some great bands, Desert Voices, which is an amazing band from that area of Brazil, and also Life Force. And Life Force Productions is the production company that's, doing the booking and the promotion over there. So I'm really excited to work with them, and they're a fantastic bunch of folks. And, we're really looking forward to coming out there to, I guess that's going to be my opportunity to get close to the ocean near Vila Vela, right? It's over there kind of by the water, right? On the coast. So I live at the beach, so I know what the coast is like. And, so I feel right at home in places like that. anyway, the next opportunity is going to be, of course, at I'll mention the CDM Metal Festival in Campo de Mayo, but I want to talk about the Jai Club in Sao Paulo. So we're going to be playing there with some amazing bands that you probably have heard of. Selvageria.
Selvageria, yes.
Did I say it right? Did I say
in Portuguese? Yes.
Selvageria. So they're going to be playing with us. And also the band War Sickness is also playing with us. And I have to mention that Hamatas is playing also on that same bill. They're going to be supporting us. Hamatas. And also they're going to be playing at Carreira Music Bar with Life Force and with Desert Voices. So Hamatas is playing both times. And Hamatas is also playing with us at CDM Metal Festival.
Yes.
And, very excited to see them and be, hang out with the band. And, they're supporting us on the whole entire tour. And then also looking forward to seeing some of the other bands on CDM Metal Festival, since you have, great artists like Edu Falaci from Angra, and you have, bands like Troops of Doom. And there's many other bands. There's a long list of bands every day. So I'm very excited to be able to catch as much as possible while we're there, since we are playing one day of that festival. But very cool to be part of it. And, they were one of the first ones to book us in Brazil. So, giving us the opportunity. But I think once they hear what we can bring to the table, I think there'll be more people that will be interested, hopefully, and perhaps. But we'll see. We'll see where the day takes us. But I can tell you that, our delivery of these songs and the way that we perform this music is not like, we're not a photocopy of
I got it.
Whatever was on Fistful of Metal, because first of all, when I was 18 and a half years old, that was November of 1983. That's when I came up to Cortland, New York, where Ronnie James Dio's from, and the band The Rods is up there. And so I was up there for a whole month, 30 days. I stayed up there for the whole entire time. I was the only one out of the whole band, because the other guys would come up on the weekends to record their parts, or certain days they were up there. I just decided I'm not going to go back and forth. I just stay up there, because there was a lot of aggravation in being in a car with those guys for that many hours, and they weren't treating me very well. So I just wanted to stay up there. It was much better. And, I had the ability to do that. So I stayed up in Cortland. That was my choice. And they gave me the option to stay up there. So it was very, very good that I was able to do that. And it was nice to be able to learn about Cortland and Ithaca and Ronnie Dio's heritage, and, the bands that were from there, Elf, and, the whole background of that. I went up to, David Feinstein's, David Rock Feinstein from the Rods, his log cabin that he built. It was like going to Abraham Lincoln's log cabin. I mean, it was wow. That he built it with with no electricity, with a wood burning stove. I mean, amazing stuff. And this is back in 1983 when I was, 18 still. And so that's when I recorded the album Fistful of Metal. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that when I was co-writing the songs, we didn't really sit down and say, oh, well, we want to write this song in, an A sharp minor, or we want to, write this song in F sharp, or we want to, do a drop D on this song. It was never like that. And it wasn't because anyone was, it's not a knock on anyone. It was just because the band was young and inexperienced. I mean, for the sake of the fact that we were 18 years old, 19 years old at the time, some of us, and the band just didn't have a lot of super experience in writing. It wasn't like, yeah, exactly. It was like, you write a verse, you write a chorus, you write, a bridge, and that's pretty much it. You glue the song together, you put a guitar solo, and there you have a song, a beginning and ending. So yeah, I don't have that version. I'll have to get a hold of that version. I've never seen that. That must be the Brazilian release version. That's cool.
Yeah.
What's ironic is that album, when it came out, it did not have any photographs on it. So you didn't know what the band looked like. And it sucked because, it was like a lack of identification, a lack of brand, a lack of identity. Oh, that's great that they put that on there. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to get a copy of that one. Maybe you'll show me what that is after the interview, what label that was on, what that release date is. so I can find that, because that actually looks better. What color is the logo on the front? I'm just curious.
It's released by color is not pink, it's red.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. So here's the thing. The thing about that cover, is that the pink one or the red one? I can see it.
No, it's the red one.
Okay, it looked a little bit, because it's a little bit. Okay, there it is. I can see it very clearly. It's red. So what happened is, when that first album came out in January of 84, it was like, okay, we're excited. We got albums coming out, right? So we knew it was coming. And then I was handed the album, and we looked at it. It's like, what the fucking fuck? I mean, this thing's pink. Like, who the fuck puts out a fucking pink album? Like, we're not the fucking Go-Go's. What the fuck is this shit? Like, what fucking person did this? Once you work in the graphic art business, once you've had experience, making T-shirts, things like that, you start learning, hey, colors don't stay the same. Depending on the substrate or what kind of material you're printing on, things can change. And what kind of technique you're using, what method you're printing with, that can change. So I didn't know any of that back then, but it was a surprise. It was a shock to the whole band. We're this band that's, looking to be more of a heavy rock band, a heavy, speed rock band, and all of a sudden, a thrashing band, and we got a pink logo. That was very cute. I mean, what are we going to come out with? Some promotional lipstick to go along with it? I mean, what the fuck? Some nail polish? I mean, it was just like a shock. Like, how did this happen? It was a mind-blowing experience. I mean, we were excited and happy. Our album came out, but with a pink fucking logo, and then it had no photo on the fucking album at all.
No, in this release, no. But I know this history, and the pink logo came out only on the first press of vinyl.
Right.
Yes,
right.
Oh, and
well,
then
in the United States, it came out that way, and in I think in Europe, Music for Nations. But I know Music for Nations did a double album version, which is pretty cool. It has different photos and things in there, and a few other songs that they try to throw in there, but or versions of songs. But I'm excited that release in Brazil looks like that. That looks pretty cool. I never saw that.
It's
so
really.
I'll have to go find a copy of that somewhere.
It was released by Rock Brigade Records and Die Hard Records. Yeah.
Go figure. Rock Brigade had something to do with it.
Yeah, distributed by Voice Music and Rock Machine Records.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing, so they had the right idea.
Yeah.
And the other thing that people are so confused about, that they shouldn't be confused. I mean, the level of the artist at that point was not, Picasso. So we didn't have Salvador Dali doing our art. We didn't have a budget really at all. It was like, our budget was, hey, can you do us a favor? Like free or like very limited dollars, a friend of a friend kind of thing. Yeah, so what happened is, this guy Kent Josty, who was a friend of the guitar player of the band, Spitz, he, I spoke with him. I gave him an idea of what, the vision was. And I don't know why the other guys in the band let me run with it. I don't know, because I was not in charge of the band. I was not in charge of hiring or firing people, and I was not in charge of, forcing anybody to dress any way, and I was not in charge of telling anybody anything. But one thing for sure is that whenever I had an opinion, whenever I had an idea, a creative idea, I was met with a lot of fierce opposition, because it wasn't because they were so much interested in their idea. They weren't trying to get their idea across. They were just against my idea.
Yes.
Because they looked at it as a form of, control. And they were jockeying for control. And I was not. I was interested in the music. How do we make the best music? How do we make the best artwork? How do we make the best presentation? And that's a creative thing. It's not a ego-driven thing. So I didn't even know that was the case. I didn't know I was in a situation where, you had people that were focused on the ego, like they're looking for likes, clicks on likes, and thumbs up, and they're looking for pats on the back, and glory seeking, attention seeking. Meanwhile, I had no idea that this was, the opposition constantly. And the opposition from these other folks, it was constant emotional abuse. It was subversive. It was, very hidden agenda type, gaslighting and projection and demoralization and a complete subversive attack on me constantly. And this was not only from people that are still in the band, but this was from people that are not in the band any longer. And, these kind of folks work well with one another because they can survive in that environment working off of each other, because it's kind of like birds of prey. You notice when a bird of prey or even other animals that attack an animal, like you could have, these type of, I don't know what kind of animal it is in Africa or something. You have like the ones with the horns, and they're attacking a lion, and they're ganging up on him, and they got spikes going into the lion. And they're all working together.
Sorry, Neil.
Go ahead.
Even talking about your early days in Anthrax,
Yeah.
and you are free to talk about, and I'd like to ask you, Johnny Z talking about you on his autobiography.
I'm really glad that you brought up John Zazula and Marsha Zazula, because I just want to say this, because when I was in the band, John Zazula, he was no pushover. He was a very sharp guy. He was a very straight from, shoot straight from the hip kind of guy. He was no bullshit, no nonsense. He was a no nonsense person. If you want to talk about someone who just didn't mince words, he wasn't. John, he was not fucking around. He was like a straight shooter, straight up. And the bottom line is that really, the budget, the financial situation, we didn't have much of a budget. We were trying to get it to happen. And, we were trying to go into a solid, good studio. And we went to a studio in, first we went to the same studio, Music America, that Metallica went into. When I was in Anthrax, everyone in the band other than myself, they wanted to be Metallica, they wanted to be Iron Maiden, they wanted to be Judas Priest. After I left the band, they wanted to be Pantera, they wanted to be, grunge, they wanted to be groove, they wanted to be, I don't know, somebody else. I kind of learned early on, because I met some of my heroes, and I learned early on that some people are going to give you love back, like B.B. King and Ronnie James Dio. They're going to give you love back. They're going to give you, consideration and the time of day. And there's going to be other people that won't give you the time of day, that won't care about you, that won't make you feel like, hey, they don't care if they're your hero. They don't care. They simply don't give a fuck. Not a flying fuck. Not even any fuck. Zero fucks, as they say today. And to me, like that changes the energy. To me, it's like pure energy, pure heart. Like, I don't want to let anybody down. I don't want to let the youngest child that comes to the concert, or the person who's the biggest fan, I don't want to let them down. But, I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to be ingenuine. I'm not going to be non-authentic. I'm going to be who I am, because I can't lie to myself, and I can't lie to that person. I can't make believe, and I can't fucking pretend. I'm just going to be what I am, who I am, the way I am. But I'm not going to disrespect people, and I'm not going to be, I don't disrespect the people I was in a band with. It's just that, they did whatever they did. Their actions are their actions. That's what they wanted to do. It's kind of like your ex-wife, it's like she did what she wanted to do. You're not married to her. I'm not saying you're married or not, but that's the way it is. We're not getting back together. It ain't going to happen. It's not because, I didn't try to be friendly or kind or, extend olive branches. When I was in the band, I actually made belts for the whole band out of the same chainmail that you see on Fistful of Metal. So I spent hundreds of hours making those belts. And I read in an interview that, Scott had said, Neil's trying to tell us how to dress. He's trying to force us to dress a certain way. No, that's not true, because he was wearing leather pants when I joined the band, and I was wearing spandex. I was wearing a bullet belt, so was the other guys. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, and I'll answer the question about John Zazula. We'll get back to that point. But I just wanted to say that, you know, I gave everybody something that I didn't go to the store and buy it. I made the stuff. And this was real armor that you could use in battle. I mean, you could take a sword and try to put it through and it won't go through because it's made out of the same steel wire coil, 13 gauge. And also the ones that I wore on stage were actually chrome, you know, because I would sweat and it would all rust. So I had to put chrome on it so it wouldn't turn brown and, you know, put rust all over me when I get off stage. So it would, and then, you know, rust all over my clothes. But the idea is that, you know, I gave them something. I would have been happy if they would have worn it one time in a photo shoot. If they wore it on stage, you know, that was up to them. You know, I didn't tell them how to dress. I didn't tell them how to breathe. I didn't tell them how to live. And I certainly don't control anyone. And I don't tell anyone what to do. People are going to do what the fuck they want to do, when the fuck they want to do it, no matter what you say or do. I mean, if you have kids, tell me that that's not true. You know, you can tell your kid, do this or do that, and they don't listen. You can tell your dog, do this or do that. Your cat, you know, the dog, your cat, like, you know, they might listen once in a while, maybe, but that's not, you know, it's not for us to decide what someone else is going to do. I mean, they have rules and regulations, but, you know, that's not up to me. And I was never in charge of Anthrax, but they try to make it out like I was the bad guy and blame me for a bunch of stuff. I mean, that's the way it works in government as well. You know, they try to blame someone like a politician. They say, oh, it's all this guy's fault. Before me, it's all that guy's fault. It's all her fault. It's all his fault. You know, like, that's such bullshit. It's such manipulation. That's what it is. Manipulation. So when I was in the band, I didn't know. I had no idea what manipulation like that was. You know, I was there to play rock and roll. You know, I didn't manipulation. I was 18 years old. What's manipulation? What's subversive? You know, what's ideological subversion? I don't know what that is. I mean, if you want to know what ideological subversion is, read about Yuri Bezmenov. He'll tell you. But all I can say is that I'm not aware at that age what I was going through. I had no idea. I was like, you know, I was just in a situation where it was very tense in New York. There was a lot of aggression, a lot of frustration, a lot of angst, a lot of, you know, there was a lot of hardship. And I wasn't from a very wealthy family or anything like that. I was, you know, trying to struggle along. And you know, I wasn't my first band. You know, I came from an experienced position where I had, you know, a band I was in 3 years when I was 15. I mean, I was playing professionally, you know, straight away. I mean, my first audition when I was 14, before I was even professional, I auditioned for a band called the Frankie Carr Band. Frankie Carr was one of the co-writers of the song You Are the Woman, the band Firefall. So he was in Brooklyn. I auditioned for him back then. So, I mean, I'm just giving you a little bit of a backstory. But getting back to the Johnny Z, you know, question, you know, Johnny Z, I mean, we would go out there to his flea market, his record store, which first was at a flea market in New Jersey, in Old Bridge. And then we became part of the Old Bridge family and started going, you know, the Old Bridge Metal Militia. We started doing shows and started, you know, doing shows with Metallica and a lot of shows with them. And Exciter and Overkill. Excuse me. And then, so we were really, you know, it was kind of a growth scenario. We kind of did things over time. And he saw that, you know, we had potential. And I think that with the band, you know, there was a lot of copycat behavior going on. So all of the stuff that the band did, you know, they were copying at best. They were trying to copy others. And I brought in other people, like after Greg Walls left the band, and I was thinking of leaving the band at that moment because I was very disappointed that he left, you know, and also Greg D'Angelo left. They both left. First, it was Greg D'Angelo who left to join Cities.
And Neil, talking about that age and the current shows, I wonder if are there a mix of feelings for you because we are celebrating this great classic album, and of course, Fistful of Metal is a great classic album. But when it came out, there was a kind of plot, especially when you went out the band. How find out the balance between these feelings for you?
Well, let me address that, because I'm not dumping or trying to say negative things. I'm just trying to give you the facts straight from the straight from the horse's mouth. Just straight from the hip. Shoot it straight. And the bottom line is this: I'm not holding any kind of animosity, aggressions. I don't expect anything from anybody. Zero. I don't want anything from anyone. I'm not looking for. I'm not looking to kiss and make up. I'm not looking for anything. I don't want anything. I really don't. I don't care, because we're way past that. We're people have come and gone. People have been born. People have died. I mean, we're past that. It's done. But I can tell you this: I'm still rocking, and I'm going to keep on keeping on. And these are songs I wrote. I'm proud of it. This is music I can still sing every single fucking note, and I will.
Yeah.
Because I'm metal thrashing. That's right. Anyway, so the point is that, I think the songs themselves, they have to evolve. Your music has to evolve. Either you change or die. It's a song I wrote and collaborated with Frankie Banali with Quiet Riot's last album, Hollywood Cowboys. I was part of writing 2 songs on that album, and also sang backup vocals. So I was proud of that opportunity. So Anthrax is not the only thing I've ever done. I've done a lot of other things. I've got a solo album that I've done. I've got Death Riders that I've been part of for over, a decade and almost a decade and a half. I've been part of, a Brazilian band that I played with, recording a few years ago, Chariot in Sao Paulo. And I was one of 3 singers on a track that they released. Stained Heart. I worked on an album recently that is not out yet for MC5. It's a tribute to the MC5, Motor City 5, Wayne Kramer. And, what's interesting is there was a singer who was part of MC50, and he was on a track that I ended up on. I was actually supposed to sing on a different track, but he left the project because I guess the singer from MC5 came back into the picture or something. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure, but it's an interesting scenario. But on that album is Alice Cooper singing, is Steve Stevens,
great guitar,
is
amazing,
Kim Thale from Soundgarden, Jello Biafra,
great,
from Dead Kennedys,
okay,
Willie Nelson's guitar player. I mean, there's a ton of named people, way bigger than than I think I am. I'm not that big. I'm just I'm notorious, not necessarily famous.
Of course, yes.
I don't know that I don't consider myself like some famous person. I'm just people may have heard about me, like Billy the Kid.
And you okay? And you got the Neil Turbin project.
Neil Turbin East Lows, that's my band in California, and we're
there are great albums, great releases too in Neil Turbin.
Well, actually, I don't have any releases of Neil Turbin East Lows, but that's all right. We're working on that. That's the next thing, which is the Fistful of Metal Alive.
And another project, Death Riders, yes.
Yeah, Death Riders, and also Bleed the Hunger, which is
great.
more of a retro '70s kind of take on, Deep Purple meets Kansas meets, FM rock radio, rainbow sounding.
But Neil, even all those projects, some Anthrax fans have been asking forever for a kind of reunion counting on 3 main vocalists, you, Joe Belladonna, and John Bush. Like the band Halloween are doing, you know what I mean? And are there any chance of it happen or not?
Well, certainly, Cello, that's not a decision that's up to me in any capacity. But I will tell you this. This is what I can offer you and the fans that have asked that question. Is, when Anthrax came to me after 39 years, 38 years, whatever it was, and their manager reached out to me, Mike, he reached out to me and said, and this was also through some very good people that were part of that, Adrenaline PR, Maria over at Adrenaline PR, who of course was in touch with Anthrax's manager. And, they reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind being part of this this video series, that's celebrating, the 40th anniversary of Anthrax. So I said, sure, I'll do it.
I got it.
And I did it. And just so you know, what I did is I told stories as I was asked to do. But what ended up happening is they took the footage and they cut out part of what I said. So it made me look foolish, because if I'm saying a sentence and you take out some of the words, but, it sounds stupid, right?
Yes.
But so they take out the point that I was making about, and here's the one story that I was telling. I was talking about, having control or having the keys to the kingdom. If you don't have the keys to the Corvette, how are you going to drive it?
Yes, I got it.
But they say that you took the car. Hold on. They say you took the car. So I can't take the car if I don't have the keys.
I got it.
But Neil, I try to say, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make a point.
Okay.
I just want to finish. So and pardon me for keep on going on this, but
great, go on.
I'm not Santa Claus. I don't have control of all the toys and the presents. I'm not Santa Claus. So what they did is they edited that, so it made me sound like I'm not Santa Claus, like ha ha, ho ho ho. I'm not fucking Santa Claus. I mean, that's so stupid, Like, yeah, they're trying to make me look foolish and make other people. So I'm the villain because that's the way they want to portray me, and other people are the good guys. So basically, what you're looking at is ego. Someone's got an ego problem, and they're trying to promote, let's make this guy look good, let's make this guy look bad. So, I gave him the footage. This is what you get when you got to be very careful about who you're dealing with in this life, because that's the kind of stuff you're dealing with some people. And, tread carefully with snakes, because that's what you're dealing with. And here's the bottom line. You really need to know this, Cello. And I'm not trying to railroad you here or anybody.
I know.
But I just want to explain this. I never got paid a penny, not one fucking cent, when I was in Anthrax. Now, I did get paid royalties after I was in Anthrax from music that I copywrote, because it was my songs. However, and that includes Armed and Dangerous, Raise Hell, and Gung Ho. Those are my songs I'm copyright holder. I wrote those. Yeah. I came up with the ideas. I didn't write the whole song, but I wrote 50% of it, because it's music and words. That's the way it looks. It's looked at the Library of Congress, and the music and words. So I wrote all the words, and I also wrote the melodies. And along down the road comes Joey Belladonna. His name gets put on it, but he didn't write Armed and Dangerous. In fact, I don't know. Does he write any Anthrax songs? I don't know. That's not my job to look it up. But the bottom line is that I wrote those songs, and I got compensation after the fact because I wrote them. But when I was in the band, I never got paid for anything, not even for a T-shirt, not even when I was on tour, not even for any show, for anything. And I'm sure if you look at some other videos, interviews of other Anthrax members that are no longer in Anthrax that were playing shows, you can ask them if they got paid. I doubt it. And all I can say is that it's not like two of the members, Greg D'Angelo had money, but he wasn't in charge. Scott was in charge. He had a lot of money, but they were making something for selling T-shirts on the tour. I just didn't get any money, and I didn't get any part of that. And I didn't get any part of the band after I left. They pushed me out, and they took my money. So they ripped me off completely that way. And I'm not here to complain about it. I'm just here to state facts. So the reality is, when you look at the history of a scenario, like if you're looking at your ex-wife and you're thinking, oh, well, let's, should I reconsider? It's been 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. Should I get back with her? Well, first of all, there's no offer, and I'm not even considering it, and I'm not putting it out there. But I'm just saying there's no offer. There's no possibility of that in the first place. Number two, there's no talk of it. Number two, based on the trends, based on the economics and the history, I highly doubt that, that they would pay anybody, let alone me, who they didn't pay in the first place. Number two or three, what's going to change based on the history? If I look at the historic data, they're not going to, they wouldn't pay me, even if it was something I should get paid for rightfully. They're not going to pay me. Even if everyone agreed, yeah, Neil needs to get paid for this. No, they're not going to. And not only that, but when you have egos, when you have emotionally abusive, uh, pathological behavior going on constantly over time, and it's textbook pathological behavior. I'm not here to analyze anybody or try to solve their problems for them, but it's the way I was treated, and it's the way that I'm gaslighted constantly in the past, over time, and in the media. There's even people that are no longer in the band that do the gaslighting. They'll tell a story to make themselves look wonderful. Like, look at me, I'm so wonderful. I'm so like, oh, don't you feel sorry for me? No, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not here to go fucking try to bullshit people. People are not stupid. They can feel it. They can see it. They can smell it. They can sense it.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to worry about that shit. But I'm here to set it straight. I'm going to talk. I'm going to say the truth, and I'm always going to fucking talk the truth. And that's what it's about. It's not about holding any kind of carrying any bad feelings forward. I don't have bad feelings. You know what? I could write songs. I wrote 2 songs on the last Quiet Riot Hollywood Cowboys album. I worked with Thor, on his album called Alliance. A song called We Will Fight Forever. So there's other recognition that I've had. I played live with Lawrence Juber from Paul McCartney and Wings band. I mean, I've interviewed people like Artemis Pyle, Chris Poland, Lou Gramm, Steve Vai, many great metal bands, Riot, Exciter, Accept, Loudness, Saxon.
Great.
I've interviewed them for the Metal Voice. So, I'm on the scene, I'm in the scene, and I'm part of the scene. And, whether people like it or not, that's too fucking bad, and I don't care. And I'm going to keep on playing my music, and I'm going to do what I do. And that's what we're talking about. The songs that I'm playing are my representation and my presentation. So what we did when we were young, we played songs with Anthrax that were, some of them were too slow. Some of them were too sleepy. Some of them were not in the sweet spot. If you play football or soccer, you got to kick that ball just the right way and place. It's called placement. You got to place it in the net where the person isn't, where the goalie isn't. You got to really be good and really have it precise to position your foot and that ball and hit that ball on an angle where it's going to go into that corner of the net where that guy is not standing and his hands aren't going to block it. So when you have that kind of expertise level, like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you know how to strike in a certain spot, like a fucking Shaolin monk, and you know exactly where to put a needle through a glass pane window and pop a balloon on the other side. When you have that kind of expertise, it doesn't come overnight. You have to really work at it for a long time. And I think, finding where those places are in the music, what the right tempos are, what the right feel is, what the right rhythmic, percussive delivery is, that's when you start really finding, the vibration and what connects. And for me, that's happened, and I think that's what you need to do is you need to update your songs and play them. I think even bands that are on tour currently, like Def Leppard or Motley Crue, they'll play what they played on the album, but they might update something. A band like Saxon, they might play something slightly different. They might sing it slightly different, a little bit different, just because there's a better way to deliver it. They learned something after they sang the song 7,000 times. I mean, that's the same for me.
Great. And you said
these guys can play it that way, and that's what's exciting. And we're communicating so we can deliver that level of excellence. It's a spirit of excellence. That's really what it is.
I got him. You said you were and you are part of the scenario, part of the scene. And talking about the 80s, in the 80s, there was what we can name the beginning of the Brazilian scene of the heavy metal. Let's put it that way. In several cities, Belo Horizonte with Sepultura, Chacal, Overdose. In São Paulo, there were many bands in 80s. In Santos, in city of Santos, there were Vulcano, a great Brazilian band.
I knew about them, yes.
Yeah. In Belém do Pará, there were Stress, one of the pioneers in Brazil.
I heard of Stress. I think I might have had that album, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, singing in Portuguese. In Rio de Janeiro, there were Dorsal Atlântica. I love this band, Dorsal Atlântica. Have you ever heard
Well,
Dorsal Atlântica?
well, here's the thing. So, you know, when we're talking about the early 80s or the
Early
beginning
80s.
of the whole
And
thrash scene, I
my
went and I
question,
had all these albums. I had albums that were Brazilian bands, but I also had, I had the early Loudness, Devil Soldier. I had the early Loudness, Earth Shaker from Japan. I had all these albums. I had these albums from France that were some of these early bands, Sortilege, and I had Warning, and I had and they were singing in French. And I also had bands from Germany. I had Shaken Brains, that band from Sweden that became Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force. So I had bands that were all over the world, and I was getting these albums because I knew somebody then, and when I was in Anthrax early on, that gave us a few albums. So I was getting some of these albums, and luckily I had the access to some of that and learned about it. And of course, Scott had a lot of those albums, for everything. He had, learning about all of these bands. And what was really cool to me, what really struck me, and of course you had, music publications that were print, DIY. They were printing it themselves. And you had Rock Brigade back then. And I believe that Roadie Crew was pretty early on as well, but I think Rock Brigade was one of the very first, and
yes,
I think that, so I got those publications when they came out, and, you learned about bands, and there was other ones from around the world, Kerrangs and, NME and the ones from Britain, and, Enfer from France, and, all of these publications. And in America, the United States, you had like Hit Parader, and, that was harder to get something in, or Circus Magazine or Cream. It was harder because those were more mainstream type of publications owned by a corporation and so forth. But the underground really was thriving, and I think that, the bands that I really appreciated were all of the new wave of British heavy metal. And really, you could take that same terminology and apply it to Brazil, new wave of Brazilian heavy metal, new wave of Japanese heavy metal. I knew about 44 Magnum. I knew about all of these bands there. I knew about, I'm trying to think of some of the other names that became big over time. Some of them didn't get big right away. Some of them took some time. I mean, Def Leppard, they became big pretty quick. And I got to see them in their dressing room when I was 16 years old. So, I mean, I had that experience, but I really supported that. And I really enjoyed those bands that were speaking in their own dialect, speaking in their own language, singing in that language, because to me, that was the authentic version. And I'll tell you this, when Loudness came to the United States for the first tour, the very first time, I don't know if their first show was in New York. I don't know if it was in Los Angeles or somewhere else or another city. But the first time they came to New York, they played L'Amour's. And I was there at the doorstep waiting for Loudness in the rain or snow. And I was there with Borovage from Blabbermouth. And when I met Bori for the first time, he said to me, "Neil, we met already." I'm like, "When do we meet?" He says, 1984. We were waiting for Loudness, or 1983, whenever it was they came over and played L'Amour's. And it's like, holy shit, I was there and you were there and we were outside. I was out there shivering in the snow or the rain because that was what was going on. But that was a connection. So yes, I was that person that was a fan. I was the guy that went to Bleecker Bob's and saw all the Iron Maiden records and couldn't afford them because they're picture discs and all kinds of amazing stuff. But I became aware of those bands, and Diamond Head and Angel Witch and all of these bands that were, the old school bands. And, you had a lot of other bands that weren't even mentioned, A to Z. And, some of the offshoot bands like Ian Gillan's band and all these bands of artists, a lot of European artists, Bernie Tormé and people, and Vivian Campbell and all these people, Sweet Savage and, Tigers of Pantang. So all these fucking bands. And I've played some of these old school festivals in Europe and Germany, Headbangers Open Air, and I played other ones as well. I've actually played on concerts where actually Paul Di'Anno played in front of my band, Death Riders. He opened up, if you can even imagine. We played a few shows over in Germany, which was amazing. Paul was an amazing guy to play with, to work with, and saw him in California, and I'm glad he's back. I'm glad his health is better and he's out there playing. Blaze Bailey, another amazing person. And Blaze let me come on stage and sing with him and interview him. And that was an astonishing, amazing opportunity. And Steve Grimmett from Steve Grimmett, Grim Reaper and Grim Reaper. I sang with Steve Grimmett. Hammerfall. I got invited to sing on stage with Hammerfall. And Joachim, the singer, said to me, Neil, I want you to sing with Hammerfall. And I'm like, okay, great. We could sing a duet together. It's like, no, you don't understand. I want you to sing. I'm going to watch. I'm like, what do you mean? And that's what happened. So it was crazy. We did Hector's Hymn together at the Whiskey. Well, I did it and with Hammerfall, and he watched. But I wish he would have helped me. I could have used the help. It's not an easy song, and I didn't have a long time to figure it out. A week. But that's quite an honor for me. And then also playing with Michelangelo Badio many years and many concerts. Great. And we used to put on a show together, NAMM Metal Jam. So we had 60 artists play with us at different venues over the years. And I did have members of Sepultura play with us. I did have members of Bill Hudson. I did have the drummer Great. From Sepultura as well. I did have Achilles Priester play the show. So I mean, this is something that I've done. I'm very familiar with with Shaman. I love that band. I didn't even mention all the Brazilian bands, and of course yes. The band that Achilles was playing with. I'm trying to think of the band. They're touring with Paul Diano, as a matter of fact, probably right now.
Yes. And Neil, we are talking about the Brazilian bands, but when I think of the New York bands, I think of artists that had worked hard to distinguish themselves, like Kiss, Twisted Sister, Ramones, New York Dolls. I have the impression that they thought, damn, we have to do something to stand out on this crowd. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Did you think about that in the early days?
Well, of course, you want to differentiate and distinguish your uniqueness and your brand and all that. I think in the early days, I was very influenced by Kiss. I mean, who had Fire and Blood and Tongues and great songs and great, showmanship. In fact, my family member actually was dating Paul Stanley in high school, and he came over to the house when she was babysitting for me. So, I mean, I was young. But then, when I grew up, I was in Kew Gardens Hills, and that was like 8 blocks away from where she lived. And Paul Stanley was our next door neighbor. So there you have it on that. And then, eventually I got an autograph from Paul Stanley. She gave me a piece of paper from where she worked, with his name signed on it to Neil. And when I finally met Paul Stanley, it was a lot less warm than I would have hoped. So that was a kind of a letdown, on that one. It wasn't like, wow, so great to meet one of my fans. It wasn't like that at all. It was like, and then one time I met Gene Simmons in the supermarket in Safeway in 1985. In 86, I tried to hand him a demo tape of my band, Turbin. So I had a tape and I handed it to him and he gave it back to me. He wouldn't take it. He wouldn't take it. Like
Why?
He was down in Tweed. He wouldn't take the demo. I tried to hand him my demo tape. He wouldn't take it. I said, maybe you'd be interested in producing. Maybe you'd be interested in at least checking it out. Not even willing to engage not a fraction of an inch, nothing. He could have said, yeah, thanks. I'll listen to it. Bye. Nice to meet you. But there's none, no warmth. And, I didn't understand that. But now I understand. Now I understand that some people, they're all about ego. They're all about, their own, self-serving agenda. If you don't fit in that agenda, then you just don't fit in it. And, if someone has no use for you and they treat you like that, that's disgusting. And to me, that's not the way I would treat people. And that's not the way I'd want to be treated. So really, that's the bottom line. And, the past is the past. We move on. And we talked about it. But, when you brought up the question about, your feelings or mixed feelings, well, when you talk about the dust you had up your nose and you couldn't breathe, you can remember how it felt to choke.
Yeah.
But do I dwell on it? Do I feel like I want to talk about it for a week? No. but yeah, I was choking, and yeah, I couldn't breathe, and it was dusty, and I was spitting out dirt, and I had it in my eyes, and my clothes are all dirty, and I wanted to get a shower, and I wanted to get clean clothes, and I wanted to get out of the dirt, and that's what I felt like when I was, in the band that I was in. It felt dirty, it felt disgusting, and I felt, emotionally abused. It's not something that, just because people get physically abused doesn't mean that the emotional abuse doesn't leave scars. It doesn't leave, damage. So I think that anyone that's been in that band for any period of time has had a level of abuse that's come from people trying to, manipulate them and emotionally abuse and damage them and emotionally control them. So yes, I didn't know what that was at that age. I had no idea. I didn't know what gaslighting was. I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what projection meant. I don't know what hoovering meant. I don't know what any of those terminologies meant. But, once you're exposed to sociopathic or psychopathic behavior or these advanced, cluster B personality disorders that even scientists and doctors weren't even defining very well in the 70s or 80s. I mean, they were referring back to Sigmund Freud, the id and the superego and all the stuff, and they didn't understand what all of these dark triad personalities were. They didn't understand. They didn't really articulate any of it. But I understand what it is, and I understand what ideological subversion is, and to frame it in the best possible way, it's kind of like this. If you think about World War II, if you think about Pearl Harbor, if you think about World War I, if you think about any world wars in the past, these were battlefield wars. Gettysburg, the Civil War in the United States, these were battlefield wars. These were physical confrontations. These were, men's lives dying for a cause, for their country, for their life, liberty, and justice and survival. That's what they were doing. And that's what was perceived. Now, today, we have a different perception that we should all have. It's not a battlefield anymore. That's just on the physical. We're dealing with the ether. We're dealing with something that is, a mind war. We're dealing with an information war. We're dealing with corruption at the highest levels, and we're dealing with manipulation of the corruption of the information. So if mommy and daddy aren't telling you the truth, then you're being told lies. But if your government is telling you not the truth, and they're telling you lies, and then companies are telling you lies, I mean, who's telling the truth and who's telling lies? That's what it becomes. And, subversion, that's what we're talking about. So when we're talking about rock and roll back in the 70s and 80s, there was no lies. It was rock and roll, man. That's what we were thinking about. And people that were trying to pull some weird shit, they're trying to manipulate you because they wanted attention. That's the weirdest fucking thing that I could ever think of. It's like, it's like trying to be something that you're not. Like, why would a dog try to be a cat? You ever hear a dog say meow? Or a cat saying roof, roof? It's stupid. It's like, be who you are, be authentic, be genuine, and don't try to be a fucking dog trying to be a cat. It's like, I'm sorry, but, like where I come from, what I remember, you had soul brothers. They came from a place, that's what they were. They were soul brothers, and that's cool. But trying to copy that and be that, if you're not that, it looks funny. It seems funny. It is funny. And trying to see the opposite, like someone who is a rapper, for example, that's like from, not from, someone who, like if you're tribal and that was your culture, if you're from like Polynesia, you like from Hawaii or from Fiji or somewhere, Samoa, and that's your culture. You have tattoos, you have a culture, and then someone that's totally not from there, they're trying to be like that. Or Brazilian, how about that? So you got people from Brazil, you have native people from Brazil, right? You have cultural important people that are part of the pure culture, and then you get someone who is trying to dress like that culture. They're trying to copy it. They're trying to exploit it. And to me, that's what we live in today. We live in a exploited culture of insanity. It's insane. But I'm true to my old ways because, that's where the places that you used to live, the places you used to go, those places are gone. They don't exist. They bulldozed them. They built new houses. They put new shopping malls, strip malls, whatever. Those places they used to go as a kid, you enjoyed. They don't exist for me anymore in the physical, but I remember them all very well. I can see them in my memory very clear, like a hard drive. I see all this stuff. Like I can go back to those photographs in my head, and I can go back to the videos because I see that, and I see it very clearly. Some people they have a hard time remembering. I have a hard time forgetting. So it's hard for me to talk about certain things because I can remember it very well. So I just wanted to bring that up because, it's so difficult sometimes when you're talking about, let's say, a marriage that didn't go well and, there's kids involved and there's, a lot of emotions and a lot of struggles, a lot of frustrations and, regrets about, well, maybe I should have, would have, could have done something different. In my case, in Anthrax, I couldn't have done a damn thing different. I just, when 4 people are coming up against you, what are you going to do? This, man. Okay. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not going to be pushed around. No one's going to tell me, do this and do that, or don't do this. Or, they're trying to tell me, sing, we want to do hardcore punk. I'm like, well, wait a second. When I was 15 years old, I worked at Max's Kansas City. I was part of the first wave of punk rock. Sex Pistols, Generation X, The Clash, Ramones. I went to see the Ramones at Hotel Diplomat in 1979. I was in the front row. And 1979, I can't even find a recording of a video recording of it, but it was there at this, they had like a rock and roll flea market upstairs in the Hotel Diplomat. And then they had a Ramones concert at night. And I happened to be there and I was, a teenager. I was like, wow, this is fucking great. And great. I was also there, at Max's Kansas City when fucking, when Lemmy and Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy were there. I was there at the same place working there. That's where Deborah Harry worked from Blondie. That's the same place where Aerosmith played. That's the same. It was like the Rainbow Bar and Grill that's in Los Angeles, but the East Coast version, which was Max's Kansas City. So that's the place where Bruce Springsteen played. All these bands played and went in through there, but it was a little bit different than the West Coast. It was not as much love and happiness there. It was not as warm. It was kind of a harder town, and you really had to know people. There was a lot of cliques, a lot of who kind of stuff. And if you don't know, then you don't know. But you asked about Twisted Sister and you asked about Kiss, and my connection to Kiss was what I mentioned. And then of course Scott bought all the Kiss gear, all the bass gear from Kiss. He bought like a bunch of road cases and cabinets. But when it comes to Twisted Sister, I used to go see them at Beggar's Opera. I recently interviewed Mark Mendoza for the Metal Voice. That's an interview that's up online. And they were awarded. They were inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame, which was amazing. So I got that opportunity. And, I told Mark, hey, I saw you guys back at Beggar's Opera. I saw you guys at Hammerheads back in Long Island. So I would go see Twisted Sister. They were a huge band. They did 7,000 shows before being signed. I mean, it was insane. And it gave hope to me. And I told him I heard him on the radio one time on a major station, WPLJ, and I was on 8th Street in the Village, walking by Electric Lady Studios, and I heard Shoot 'Em Down. I was like, wow, there's hope for me. Maybe someday they'll play my song on the radio. And sure enough, it happened. But the idea is that back then they had all these tribute bands, all these cover bands they called them cover bands back then, not tributes. And they were all these cover bands playing cover songs, and it was like, isn't anybody original anymore? Doesn't anyone come up with their own ideas creatively? I think people are just lazy. They just want to fall back onto what they know instead of, give new restaurants a try, give new ideas a try, give new beers a try. It's like, but if you don't put the love and the care and the really take the care and put the time into crafting something that's better than what was there before, that's maybe different and wonderful, maybe not better, but it's great in a different direction. That's what it takes. It takes that kind of care to produce something great. And that is the detail that I approach, my music with. And I really want to take the time to make something great. And, I'm not so much about like, who's going to pat me on the back or who's going to care. It's like, I hope someone likes it, because if I like it, then it but I also think in the sense of, will other people like it? So there is that factor as well, but I stopped trying to be, a people pleaser and trying to, kiss anybody's ass or everybody's ass. It's like, yeah, you want to be respectful, but at the same time, you got to be true to yourself. You know, you have to be. You can't, you know, say that you like this. Oh, here's a cream soda. Like if you don't like it, or here's a root beer soda. If you don't like it and you don't drink that, or you can't. No, here's meat. You know, I don't eat meat, so I used to, but I don't now. So if someone says here's a hamburger, like, oh, thank you. Here, let's give it to someone who needs this. You know, who wants this. I mean, I'm not gonna eat it. But the idea is that, you know, it's okay to help another person or lift someone up or not make the person feel bad that offered you something. And, you know, it's not about me. It's never going to be about me. It's about us. And it's about we. And that's the way that I look at it. And the energy, that's the number one thing. It's the energy that B.B. King told me. It's about us. And if it's not about us, then it ain't about nothing. And the same thing from Ronnie James Dio. You know, I saw Dio play some big concerts, and I saw him play some not as big concerts. And I was playing with Claude Schnell, the keyboard player for Dio, for 1996 through 1999, in his house, 5 days a week, 4 years in a row. And, you know, never got off the ground for some reason. And that was Claude's thing, you know. But I was there as a singer and learned all the songs. It wasn't my songs, it was his songs, very much like Elton John meets Meatloaf meets Dio. And it was amazing music, and I really enjoyed it. And it was challenging singing. It was kind of theatrical music, you know, in the Meatloaf sense or the Elton John sense, but also it had the Dio character as well because it was strong singing. And, you know, very even Broadway-esque, you know, it's even that aspect as well. So I was singing these songs. I met Ronnie. I went to a birthday party for Vinny Appice, and I was sitting next to Carmine Appice, and I was there, and, you know, Ronnie Dio, he bought me a drink. It was like, Neil, would you like a drink? I'm like, you're Ronnie Dio. Buy a drink? Yeah, I'll have a Jack and Coke. Yeah. But yeah, you know, it was like, wow, that was so, you know, just a genuine person, down to earth. And then I saw Ronnie backstage. You know, I met him a bunch of times, and then I saw Ronnie at NAMM. I saw him a bunch of times, and I was there at backstage at the Scorpions Whitesnake concert at Universal Amphitheater. I think I went there with Glenn Sobel, if I'm not mistaken, from Alice Cooper, and then who eventually ended up in Alice Cooper. But he was playing with Tony McAlpine back then, or something like that. And and I had jammed with Glenn at some parties and stuff, and we hung out back then a little bit. So I'm there, and Craig Goldie walks near me, and then Ronnie's right next to him, and I'm like, you know, and Craig's in his suit jacket, and he's, you know, his cologne and his suit jacket. It's all, you know, very professional, prim and proper guy, very friendly, very cordial. And I remember with Craig Goldie, because I used to go to some of the guitar shows that they had in LA, like the LA Guitar Show back in like the 90s. So I met him there. So we saw each other a few times. You know, it wasn't like I had a special pass to go backstage, but on that show, I was invited backstage. And then I went up to Ronnie and I started talking with him and Craig, and I asked Ronnie, you know, Ronnie, I saw you in France when it was an amazing show at Charles de Gaulle Airport, the Breaking Sound Festival in 1984. I mean, mind-blowing concert with Gary Moore and, you know, Metallica and other great bands from that. So he put on an amazing show. You can even find footage of that. And then I saw him at the with Tracy G. I saw him play at the, you know, in Orange County at the Galaxy Theater, what it was called at the time. They changed the name of that since, but so I saw him there, and it was like 900 people, pretty full. I don't know if it sold out or not, but it was pretty full. And then I saw him at the Greek Theater, and guess who was playing with him? Anthrax, opening up in 2003, I think, or somewhere thereabouts. And I was walking into the concert when Anthrax was still on the stage. I think it was the last song. So I heard them in the parking lot walking in. It was hard to park the car. So I get into the concert, and I look around, and it's like the Greek Theater. It was like maybe 2/3 full. There was a lot of empty spaces on the upper decks and places, a lot of emptiness, but also there's people there. I mean, there was thousands of people. It's just that it wasn't full. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, well, I've seen Ronnie play for, you know, tens of thousands of people. And I also saw Black and Blue when they played the Nassau Coliseum, the recorded, the video that they did for Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult.
I remember, yeah.
I was there with Godzilla and the whole thing. And then you had Black Sabbath with the crosses and the flames, and that was a glory moment for Black Sabbath. I mean, Dio was the strongest in that band with that moment. So for me, that was incredible. And I talked to Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, I grew up in New York. I'm in Long Island with my family, and I'm like at some community clubhouse at a friend's place and listening to Rainbow playing on the radio through one of those speakers on the wall, like an intercom, and the pool room. And I'm like blown away by Man on the Silver Mountain or Rainbow Rising or one of the songs that they're playing. And I was like, something very commercial sounding in his voice. It wasn't just the heavy, but it was the heavy and the commercial and the radio. And it was like, it just shocked me. It was just like, wow. I don't know, subliminal. At that age, I must have been about 12 or 13. I was like, holy crap. And that was like 70s, that's before the 80s. But then I told him about the 1980 concert, Black and Blue. I said, wow, that was just like, I was blown out of my mind.
Great.
I was sitting there in the seats, like, wow. And then I told him when I saw you play, and there was less people. And then I told him I saw him play when he was at the Greek Theater, and the way he controlled that stage, the way he delivered his vocals and his performance. I said, Ronnie, what were you thinking? I asked him the same exact question I asked B.B. King. When B.B. King said From Here to Here, I asked Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, that moment when you were on that stage, what were you thinking? He looked at me and he starts going like this. The eye, real close. And he's like, that's my stage. I'm like, wow. Whoa, yeah. Mr. Dio, I got you. Thank you. That's all I need to know. Like, wow, that was incredible. And, he was just a real guy. And for me, that was like, learning from the masters, when you get that kind of, honesty, it's like, you don't expect something like that. And, I guess what it is, people like Gene Simmons, they were being honest with me in their own way. And, Ronnie was real honest with me. Ronnie really told me where it was coming from. And that's really valuable. It's like, even though, that was a reaction, it was like, whoa, that was, like he owned it. Like he really owned it. He really, and anything less, you can't, I mean, a career like Ronnie Dio's, I'm not just trying to give glory to Ronnie, but I mean, I really admire him because, he's a guy that never quit. He's a guy that was doing it in the 50s, the late 50s, the early 60s, 50s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, generation. Yeah. What is that? 50 or 60 years? Like decades, 6 decades of performing and being professional. And he changed. He metamorphosized from different versions. He's doo-wop. He was doing rock. He was doing Beatles kind of music. He was doing, hard rock. He was doing metal. He was doing, he had a lot of different, aspects or colors to his music. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a model to even comprehend and understand. It's not just about his later music, but it's his whole career. It's fascinating to me. I had to do the same sort of thing in some ways. I don't compare myself to a Ronnie Dio because I don't think anyone could. But I think, when I auditioned for Riot in 1985, after Rhett Forrester, who was a good friend of mine, left the band, and it seemed like Riot broke up at that time, which I guess they did. I auditioned for what was Riot or Narita. I was in the Riot studios at Green Street Studios, and I was singing, and I thought, oh, for sure I'm going to be singing Fire Down Under and, Swords and Tequila. And I could have sang that, and maybe I would have had the opportunity to join Riot if they let me sing those songs. But no, they didn't give me those songs. They gave me a soul song. They gave me Restless Breed, more of a Paul Rodgers approach, more of a very R&B kind of vocal meets rock. And at that age, at that point, I was 20 years old. It was January of 1985. I went in the studio, it might have been February 1st of 85, something like that. Freezing ass cold. It was so cold in New York, 0 degrees, and I'm on the subway. I get out, I get into the Village, go to Green Street, walking over there, shivering, my leather jacket, and then my gloves, and then they had coffee, so I drank a bunch of coffee. So I'm like this. Coffee, because I drank so much of it because it was so fucking cold, and and the coffee warmed me up. So what happened is then I had to go sing the song, and I was already jittery. I was already like, I couldn't stay steady. I couldn't like if I was holding something, I couldn't stay, aimed properly. I couldn't write something because I'd be like, oh, it was shaking. So I was trying to sing and I was a little bit shaky. And not only that, but my skill level as far as the R&B stuff, as far as the soul singing, it just was not quite where it needed to be. It was close, but it wasn't close enough. You know, it wasn't close enough for horseshoes or hand grenades. So unfortunately, I just didn't have, you know, when you do an audition, when you're recording something, you got to fucking do wow. It's got to be fucking wow. It can't just be, well, that's good. Well, that's very good. No, it's got to be like, wow. When people hear wow, everybody unanimously hears wow. Then it's like, okay, well, that's like, yeah. You know, but if it's anything less than that, then you already know where you stand. And that's pretty much, you know, it was a disappointment because it was my favorite band at the time, Riot. And, you know, they didn't give me a chance to sing, you know, one of the songs that was right in my wheelhouse. But with that being said, all was not lost because at that age, in 1985, you know, now it's what, 2023? I made it a mission of mine to study the kind of singers that sing that soulful delivery and that sing that kind of, you know, and I was always into Motown and Stax Records and Memphis Soul and Northern Soul and, you know, Muscle Shoals and, you know, R&B and Philadelphia Soul and Motown. And I was always into those bands. I grew up on it, just like I heard, you know, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I heard, you know, the Jackson 5 and Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and Al Green and Donny Hathaway and Aretha Franklin, you know, and I can keep going. And of course, all the oldies that were soul songs. So there was wonderful music. I mean, those are really great songs, really great melodies, really amazing times and amazing music. So for me, I was impacted by all of that, you know, just as much as Ted Nugent, Kansas Foreigner, Boston, and those bands, and Cheap Trick, and you know, bands before that, Aerosmith. You know, I mean, yeah, I was into the hard and heavy, but at the same time, you know, I really loved this great songwriting. Even Elton John. You know, you had mainstream artists that had cool songs. So, you know, the Beatles, the Stones. You know, you can't deny good rock and roll. I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking things that are good. I mean, you know, someone's going to tell you, I mean, I love the punk scene, you know, the new wave scene, the first new wave scene, you know, Buzzcocks and Undertones. And I was part of that. I worked at Max's, you know, in the Ritz when it first opened. I was part of that. UK Squeeze. I was part of that. I saw all these bands. So really those influences were part of what I did. My first band, The New Race, you know, that was a combination of the punk, the rock, the heavy rock, the metal, the alternative, you know, kind of avant-garde, you know, The Village, Tribeca, you know, that whole kind of vibe as well. So, you know, there was a couple of different things going on concurrently. And for me, you know, I brought an artistic level of expertise to the table when I joined Anthrax. So that's really where I came from. And, you know, I don't think that was fully utilized really, because when I had creative ideas, it was shunned. It was scuttled away. It was like, yeah, it's nice that you have an idea. We have ideas too. Yeah, we have an idea too. You know, so it's like, okay, it was always a challenge, right? If I had an idea, it was like a challenge that I have an idea, and they wanted to challenge me and say, well, you know, we have an idea too. Like, okay. So we didn't sit in the room and write songs together. Like they said, here's a tape of the song, or I had to record the live rehearsal and then take it to my room at my house in Queens and then go, you know, work on the idea of the song, what the song was about, the lyrics, the melody. And I came back and said, okay, well, we should maybe move this part or shorten it or, you know, put this here and move that there. The problem was every idea, every suggestion I had, any creative idea was met with resistance and opposition. So that was the problem. So it was very difficult to get something done. And what we did for 2 years, we rehearsed 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday. We played the set 3 times. We rehearsed for about 3 to 4 hours. We're there for, you know, for 4 hours. And we played one set after the other. Took a short 5-minute break or whatever, and then did the set again and again. So we beat the same horse 3 times every night, 5 days a week. There was like, you know, 8 or 9 songs, 7, 8 or 9 songs. It wasn't even 10 songs, 12 songs, 15, 20, 30, 40. We should have had a shit ton of songs by then. It wasn't a collaboration. It was like, here, let's play the songs again. Let's play the set again. They didn't really understand there wasn't that intelligence at that point, that emotional intelligence or that consciousness. And unfortunately, it's like we could have written a lot more songs, we could have done a lot more creatively, but there wasn't that love vibration or creative, brotherhood or that real synergy. There was a live synergy that happened at some point, but it wasn't like there was this creative synergy. But I did write Armed and Dangerous with the band. I did write Metal Thrashing Mad with Dan Loker, and maybe Greg might have had some input in that Dan used, but it was pretty much that. I don't know how 5 people's name got on the copyright though, because 5 people didn't write that song. Death Rider, same thing, Dan Loker and I. And people saying that they wrote more than 50% of the album, that's not true, because music and words. If you look at the copyright, if you look on the album, you see music and words. Lyrics are an important part of a song if they have lyrics.
Well, of course, yes.
Melody, and that is 50% according to the Library of Congress or according to copyright. So someone that claims that they wrote more than 50%, not true. And especially if they claim they wrote more than 50% and another person in the band wrote something else, like maybe they wrote some music too, which is the case. On Death from Above, I wrote guitar parts on that. On the verses, I wrote the guitar riff for that. And so that means that I wrote a percentage of the music and the lyrics and the melodies. So in fact, on that particular song, I wrote more than 50% because of that factor. But anyway, I'm not here to squabble about, grabbing for sticks or who's dad's bigger than whose dad or anything like that. But I think it's misinformation for someone to go out there and start telling, bragging and looking for a pat on the back that, they should get all the credit. That's bullshit. And,
yes,
there was other people that worked hard, and I worked hard, and I try to work with everybody in the room, but they wouldn't give me any leeway. They wouldn't give me any cooperation. So I had to go do it on my own. And the funny part is they probably don't even, some of them probably don't even know what the songs are about. They don't know what I wrote the songs about because I was the one who wrote them. It wasn't them, and it wasn't their input on that. I came up with the idea for Death Rider. I came up with the idea for Metal Thrashing Mad. They didn't know that Metal Thrashing Mad was a combination of Flash Rockin' Man's title and Motorcycle Man and Street Fighting Gang from Saxon and from Accept.
Great.
And, my thing was to be more like Accept in those days, Restless and Wild. Saxon, Wheels of Steel, Power and the Glory, Denim and Leather, and then also Riot, Fire Down Under. That was my vision. Yeah, and a little bit of Judas Priest, live in Japan thrown in there.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the vibration. And, they wanted to do hardcore punk. They wanted to be like the Agnostic Front or something, or some other punk band. And it's like, that's cool. I was part of punk. I was part of the Sex Pistols and the Clash and Generation X and the Ramones. I mean, I grew up near the Ramones, right near Main Street. I used to live there in Flushing, New York as well. I was there right by the Ramones. It was, living and breathing Ramones and Kiss and Twisted Sister and all the bands from the scene.
Right.
So hopefully I didn't overtalk too much, but I just wanted to share, a little bit of history and also a little bit of information, because really people have a perception of what they think, because what people say, read the book, it's in my book. Yeah, who wrote the book? Well, they didn't even write it, but they had someone write it, and it's all their side of the story, which, it's not a good story. And, some people are making up stories. My information, I'm not making a damn thing up. You ask me in 10 years, you asked me 10 years ago, I'll tell you the same fucking thing. It's going to be the same story, the same information. Put me on the witness stand, sworn testimony. I'll say the same fucking thing. And I'll say the same fuckings, because I'm still going to fucking talk like that, because that's who I am, where I'm from. Because I don't give a fuck. And it's like, if they don't like it, then fucking lump it, because that's the reality. And I'm not there to kiss anyone's ass. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't like the way the fucking shit stinks, then go to the next room. It's like, too bad. I mean, they shouldn't have shit in my room. They shouldn't have fucked around. But that's what they did, and I'm okay with that. It's like, I'm not looking to re-engage with an unpleasant experience. I already know what that feels like, and I've got no signs that show me that anything will change in any way. I got no sign that shows me that I'm going to get paid. I got no sign that shows me that, hey, we're going to be civil. We're going to be civilized. I got no signs that show me that. It's like if JFK came back to life and said, okay, well, maybe these guys won't shoot me in the head and in the throat, in the back, and in the front from 8 different places. Maybe they won't shoot me. Maybe. Or maybe they will.
Yes.
So what do you think?
I don't know.
That's a bad question, isn't it? You don't answer that one, huh?
Don't put me in this corner.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't put me in this corner, please.
That's the question for the fans. Like, what do you think? You think they're going to be nice all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's time to celebrate.
No.
I agree. I agree that the
I'm
guy.
sorry. I wish it was better. I'm sorry for the fans. If they had any sense, if they had any fucking common sense,
yes, I got it.
They would do something about a 40th anniversary of Fistful of Metal.
Yeah.
But they're not. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. They re-recorded those songs twice with 2 different singers, with John Bush and Joey. So they re-recorded those songs. I guess those songs must mean something because they're still playing some of them.
Yeah.
So they can put me down and they can say that I'm nothing to the band and whatever. I don't care. You know what? Come out and see for yourself. See if we deliver, if we bring the fucking fire. We will be coming to Brazil and we're going to bring it and swing it, man. That's what's going to happen. And we're playing these songs, you know, with fierceness and fury and delivery. And if you want to thrash and you want to get into the fire and the brimstone with us, then come on out. And also the energy is going to be there. And, you know, and we're playing with great national Brazilian band members. I mean, these guys are fantastic. They're international band members. They're guys that are just incredible players, incredible people, and they're good people. You know, you want good people in your band. You want people that are good members of a family, good members of a team, good members, you know, people that communicate well, people that don't just have an ego problem. They don't just want a pat on the back. And they're guys that are, you know, a family of people, you know. And I'm thankful to have the opportunity to come to Brazil for all of you and be with you there. And I hope to come back. I mean, that's really my objective, is to have the opportunity to not only play there once, but I want to come back many times. You know, I'd like to be like Paul Diano. I'd like to be like, you know, Jeff Scott Soto. I'd like to be like, you know, Blaze Bailey. I'd like to be like all the great singers that I've admired, you know, Steve Grimmett. I like to be like all these great singers, all these great people, and come back for the Brazilian fans. And also, you have great countries next door as well, Chile, and you have, you know, all the Guays, you know, the Paraguays, the Uruguays, and Argentina, and, you know, all of these amazing countries. I played a lot in Mexico. I played in El Salvador. I played in Guatemala. I played in Honduras last year. I love these countries. I love Latin America, and I love the history. I love the culture. I love the people. I have a lot to learn about, you know, what you guys already know. I haven't been there. I have knowledge about certain things, but I'd like to learn more. But I'm a student, you know. I want to always learn. I want to always listen. I want to always hear people, you know, what they have to say and what they want to tell me. And I want to engage. I'm not just there to tell people what's up. I'm not there to hear myself talk. And I may have talked a lot on this interview, but, you know, I had some things to share. But you can ask me any questions before we go. You can say anything. You can ask me anything.
Of course. Just one more question, Neil. Will you bring this glove to Brazil, this metallized glove?
No, I won't, because that's not something that I need to bring, because, number one, it is a piece of history. Number two, it weighs, with all the other metal stuff, about 50 pounds. They don't let you get on the airplane with all that. I need to bring some staging. I need to bring my one change of clothing. I mean, that's all I can carry. One change of clothing. Like 2 days worth of clothing. Like 2 shirts.
Yeah.
2 shirts, 2 socks, 2 pants. That's it. Like
great
toiletries, you know, backdrops, phone chargers. I mean, I don't even have a laptop or nothing like that. There's not enough room. You know, a little bit of medicine, you know, some basic stuff that you need to take with you. Vitamins, you know, supplements, things that you want to take with you, maybe something to eat. There's not a lot of room. Battery chargers, there's not a lot of room to take, you know, earphones. Like, whatever I can't, sunglasses, whatever you can't put in your pockets, you got to put it in your bag, and there's not a lot of room. And the we don't have like $9 billion to go buy extra bags and all this extra stuff. So like, I'm taking very little, very minimal. And then I have to take my in-ear monitors. I have equipment. You see, they make a joke about singers and say singers have no equipment. Well, I got a lot of equipment. I got like 10 guitar amps and cabinets and guitars. And, I also play guitar and write songs. Yeah, that's true. And I play, singer-songwriter stuff too, So I always bring a guitar with me. And I always play guitar, not necessarily on stage, but, I'm always always writing, always playing. You got to do that. You got to be creative. And, so I'm really looking forward to a great time in Brazil. I'm really, excited about the people there. And, it's a place I haven't been to. And, it's fantastic to, this late in the game for me to have the opportunity that I've apparently made happen. So let's make it happen. It's Anthrax certainly didn't invite me there.
Okay, and I have to admit, it's not only because I'm talking to you. This album is my favorite Anthrax album. It's my favorite Anthrax album. I told it to you, Suzy dos Santos. I mean, I am very, very glad talking to you because I admire your work in Fistful of Metal.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that. And I have two thoughts on that. So one question would be why? Why do you like that one versus other ones? I mean, Anthrax has put out a lot of albums, and why would you like that versus other Anthrax albums? Why is that one even?
I like this album because it's how can I say, it's true. There are truly feelings here. It's you and the guys are young, and you, it's raw, it's trashy, it's honest. I think, and I can be wrong, I admit, that Johnny Z and Scotty Ian want achieve the mainstream too much with the following albums. In a how can I say, in a false way. It's my opinion, only my opinion. I think that here in this time, there were more true feelings. You know what I mean? It's not Joe Belladonna is not guilty for that, and I think that it was the business. Johnny Z discovered Metallica, and Metallica went out to release the Ride the Lightning and the following albums. And Johnny Z was, how can I say, disappointed with that. And I think that he tried to do the Anthrax to be his baby and his vengeance, his revenge in a certain way. And I think that they were trying to achieve the mainstream, and I don't like so much. I like it, okay? You know what I mean? I like it, Among the Living. I prefer the State of Euphoria, the talking about the Joy Belladonna's albums. I prefer the State of Euphoria, but and I like it, Sound of White Noise with John Bush. I like it. But I don't like the Stomper for Two. I don't like the other Volume 8 because it's too grunge for my ears. It's too grunge for my taste. But at the end of the day, this is the better for me because I like thrash metal. I like the 80s. I like the spirit of the 80s from America, from USA. Even the New York scene and the Bay Area scene. You know what I mean? Metallica, Exodus, Testament, and at the other side, Anthrax with the Fistful of Metal, Overkill with the Feel the Fire, and something like that. You know what I mean? That's okay for you?
I think you know what you feel. I think you're in touch with what your feelings are and what your heart feels and what your spirit feels, and you're connected with that feeling. And no one's going to lie or misrepresent to you what you already feel and what you know in your heart of hearts to be true. And I think that, Fistful of Metal was a pure spirited album. I mean, what you're getting, what you see is what you get. It was pure. And I think, obviously, I think for any band in that time frame, they wanted to appeal to a commercial appeal and have record sales and have, try to make money, pay the bills, make some money. So I'm sure that there's no question about, that aspect of it. But when it comes to my departure from the band or them trying to replace the singer position, they did have a different singer. They had Matt Fallon, who was the second singer he's the singer after myself. And so Joey wasn't after me, it was Matt Fallon, who also sang with Skid Row. And then they found Joey, I guess, through Carl Kennedy. But the bottom line is that, it was a different thing. My thing and my uniqueness to the band was more in the idea of Saxon, Riot, Accept, Judas Priest at that time, the delivery. My musicality is much deeper than that, and, I sing R&B, I sing a songwriter, I play, melodic hard rock as well. I mean, I play thrash. I can write in all of these different genres. I can sing in all of these different genres, including, very soulful R&B. So I like these styles. Now I also sing progressive rock, like Kansas, thrash, progressive thrash, or progressive styles. So I do like melody, and I do like to adhere to a melodic sensibility. So if you have classical influenced music or neoclassical or progressive neoclassical, I mean, these are things I can hang in and survive. And blues based as well, which is the more blues based rock. There's the Beatles side, the Eleanor Rigby, which is the more classical side, if you want to break it down, or you have the Rolling Stones, which is more, Can't You Hear Me Knocking side, the more blues based. So I sing blues, and I probably could sing opera. I could probably sing, jazz. Those are a little bit more deeper areas. There's a lot more intensity in terms of, you got to really study and practice. And by the way, I wanted to tell you, I don't know if you're aware, I interviewed John Bush twice. I did two
I got it. I heard about that.
I'm also friendly with Dan Nelson. Dan was a cool guy to me. I met him before, and
he's a great guy.
He came to see one of my shows. He was there when we played at NAMM, and he was hanging out with me. So it was like, wow, he was a cool guy, And
yeah,
and I didn't have any problem with those guys at all.
I got it.
I was friendly with Greg Walls. He used to come and play my shows, NAMM Metal Jam.
Yeah,
a few times. He'd come to rehearsal.
Yeah, and Neil, just one question: do you think that my opinion is too far of the truth, or is so wrong, or it makes some sense? My opinion about this album and the following albums with Joey Belladonna. What do you think about my comment?
So you want to put me on the spot? Is that what you're doing, Cello? Okay, I gotcha. Well, so here's what I think. All right, I think number one, who am I to judge what you think? That's your opinion. So who am I to tell you that your opinion is right or wrong? I mean, I'm not here to do that, because I can't judge what you feel. Okay. I can't tell you what to feel. And you see, that would be, if I told you what you should feel, then that would be controlling. Okay, but I'm not going to try to control you and tell you what you should feel. You can hate what I did, and that's fine. You can say, oh, that sucks. Oh, I don't like it. Well, some people don't like singing. Some people like barking. But, I'm not a Chihuahua, so I'm not going to bark. That's just not my role. But at the same time, I appreciate what you're saying, and I've heard, similar comments from people before. I've heard that a number of times, that's a similar kind of feeling. And, I think it connects with some people, and that's really it is. It's the energy that comes across. It's connecting with people, even with the poor quality of mixing and the poor quality of some of the sounds on that album, because it could have been better. If we had that Music America studios that Metallica had, we had a better mix of the end result and mastering of the songs. I mean, for some reason, it sounds like we're playing in a dumpster, and at least the drums and the guitar sounds like it, and the vocals, I don't know. I didn't have enough time to record my vocals because I was up there for 30 days. They gave me, a day and a half to record, all those songs. That was just not enough time. I was being rushed and pushed. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. We got to mix. We got to hurry up, hurry up. It's like they took 2 weeks to do guitars. They took a week to do bass. I mean, the guy who played bass, it took him 30 plus takes to do I'm 18. Down, 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 down. Why is that 30 times to play that? That should have been boom, 1 or 2 takes, get it done, move on. But that's why we didn't have time to do vocals, because shit like that. And then, other technical things that take time. They have to set up the studio. They have to, it was a 2-inch tape. So they have to prepare the studio. We have to drive up there. And by the time I'm getting the chance to do my part, they didn't really care. You had egos. It was an ego-driven agenda. It wasn't about let's do the best album we can. It was more like, look at me. The people in the band were look at me. I mean, imagine. People on the bass or the drums, look at me. It's like, what about the fucking vocals? Like, isn't that important to the album? It ain't about look at me. It's look at us. It's what about we? What about all of us? What about our product? Well, do you want to sell 10 of them, or do you want to sell 100 or 1,000? Do you want to sell 10,000, 100,000, a million, or a billion, or trillion, or a tetrahydrillion, whatever the big number is? How many, it's a viewpoint. How do you look at that? Do you look at it like you want to embrace, the best delivery, or you want to just look good for you? Are you Michael Jordan, or are you playing for the team? Is it about the whole team, or is it just about one superstar? I was never a superstar. I never wanted to be a superstar. I never thought I was a superstar. I came from an aggressive place. I came from a very, difficult scenario in my upbringing. And, I was on guard, it was like that,
Great. I got it.
It was a battle on the way up, and I'm still on the battle on the way up. I haven't reached the heights or something. I'm just trying to rock, man. I'm just trying to keep on keeping on. And, when I play a new country, I play a new place, I do a new thing. And that's an accomplishment, man. That's a gold star for me from fucking, first grade. Like, hey, I got a fucking gold star. That's all right. You know what? Playing Brazil, that's a gold star. And I'm really excited, and I really,
Great.
Look forward to the opportunity. And I think, your opinion is great. And I think more people have an opinion like you. I mean, I've read things on the social media, on the YouTube, on different websites. I mean, certainly people appreciate Fistful of Metal. Certainly people are becoming more aware of some of my work. And, there's been an effort to kind of push down my contribution. And I think there's also over time, and there's also, certainly in the media from other folks. And then certainly there's been an effort to, to minimize my contribution and to also demonize me. I think that is another factor. So, constant mentioning of my name in the media in the past and demonizing me. Like, it's all Neil's fault. Everything's Neil's fault. Neil. Oh, he's so bad. He's such a tyrant. And he's this and he's that. Well, how can I be a tyrant if I'm the one making gifts for people, trying to give them things, being kind to them? No one gave me a gift. No one tried to be kind to me. They just want to, be belligerent towards me and put me down and be negative towards me and insult me and fight with me. So that is what, the emotional abuse, the plotting behind my back kind of stuff, the manipulation. I mean, I would say that's a lot worse than me trying to stand up for myself, saying, I'm not going to let you push me around. No, I'm not going to be pushed around. I'm going to stand up for myself. And that's where I'm coming from. But you see, they try to twist that. They try to flip the script and try to twist that whole idea. And, and I'm not just talking about the members that are in Anthrax. I'm talking about people like Dan Loker or Dan Spitz. Oh, you can better believe that that's the facts. And that is exactly what happened. And those folks, they ganged up on me. It was a gang of people trying to gang up on me. And I thought I was in a band. It's like, what kind of band is this? If, you guys are just trying to attack me, personal attacks left and right, emotional abuse. It's like, I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand how to articulate what this was because it was subversive. It was something that was not, it was discreet. It was discreet abuse. It's like if you have this kid that shows up with like pains and they can't walk, but you can't see any scars because the people smashing their fucking legs and their body, that they're putting something there before they hit him with a fucking brick. Like,
wow.
Like it's all internal injuries. It's all like, and emotional injuries. It's like you can't see any scars.
Yes.
That's someone who's very sophisticated in how they abuse people.
Yes.
And believe me, I think that this is something that people are aware of. I think it's something that people are aware is happening in our world. And I think that we need to be more aware as a society and as a we the people of the united world to be aware of abuse, because I am against bullying and I am against emotional abuse, and that's exactly what happened. So why am I passionate about it? Because I'm going to stand up for myself till the very last moment. That's why. Yes. And I don't care if people don't like it. If you don't like it, then fucking lump it. Okay? And you may not like hearing that, but that's just where I'm coming from. It's like people that were abusive, you need to stand up to them. Bullies, there's one way to deal with bullies. And I don't need to go into it, but you know what that is. It's to stand up to them. And no matter what, you have to. That's all there is to it. And when you got 4 bullies coming at you, that's what you got to do. And unfortunately, the bullies will try to call you a bully. Unfortunately, the bullies will all try to blame you. Unfortunately, it's just like everything's climate change, right? This person had a car accident. Oh, it's climate change. Oh, really? It's a bully trying to blame something. It's like if people can't see through that and get it, then they're blind or they're ignorant. Yes. And, I'm not blind anymore. I'm not ignorant anymore. I'm not foolish anymore. I'm aware of what's going on and what's gone on. So, you know what? If people want to play fair, then we could play fair. I could tell you that John Bush is going to play fair. I could tell you that Dan Nelson's going to play fair, because these are reasonable human beings. These are people that are conscious and considerate and thoughtful people. And, anything that could ever be said about them, I know these people personally. I've met them. I've worked with them even. I've interviewed John, and, I've hung out with Dan. So, like, these are nice people, good people. And, I don't hang out with them all the time, but I see him around. I haven't seen Dan in a while, Dan Nelson, but I can tell you that, you can't believe everything you see on the internet, okay? And you can't believe everything you see on television. You can't believe everything that some idiot with a blog will write, because I read it in a book, like what book? Or I read it on Wikipedia. I would rather read WikiLeaks than Wikipedia. At least you're getting some kind of truth, because who knows what Wikipedia.
No.
Like,
there are a lot of crap in the internet. And talking about the music, Neil, as you said, when you said about the BB King, is the connection of feeling. So I can say that this album connect me too much than the others, And 2 hours of talking, Neil Turbin.
I got a big mouth. What are you gonna do?
It's a great pleasure talking to you. Great histories. You are a great guy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I have to earn everything. I can't just accept compliments without, earning it. So, I look forward to meeting you in person, Cello. I look forward to meeting everyone in Brazil. But, in case people have questions, maybe they'll have less questions after watching this interview, because I think, we covered some things and it just needs to be addressed. Now, will people agree with it, or will they want to do battle with me? Let them bring it on. Let them say whatever they want. I'm just telling you what I know. And the problem with me, Cello, is not the fact that I can't remember. It's that I can't forget. I can't forget the level of insidious abuse, emotional abuse, and duress that I had to put up with. This was 5 days a week, every week. And then after we did a show, it's like the band wouldn't even talk to each other for a month, because we didn't do that many shows in the beginning. It was like, here's a show, and then all of a sudden, no shows. So it's like, it was so difficult. People have to just, take a vacation for a month. So there was no communication. It's like then I get a
Yeah.
phone call. Oh, hey, we're going to rehearse again. Okay, great. But it was more like punishment versus rehearsal. It was more like that, and the emotional abuse was the punishment. It was just like, I can't communicate with anyone. I want to write to the song in the rehearsal room. It was too loud. No one listened. I tried to talk. No one listened. Hey, let me show you a riff on the guitar. Don't touch my guitar. Okay, can't do anything. Can't communicate. Not allowed. But I'm the bad guy, right? I'm the guy who's to blame, right? It's my fault that people don't,
Okay, I got it.
we did
And
something wrong. It's like,
I got
how do you even deal with that? Like
Yeah.
my idea was this. I just put up with it. I was strong enough to withstand it. Like the Rolling Stones have a shirt that says, we withstood this and that. All the things the Rolling Stones withstood over time. They withstood, murder at concerts. They withstood, getting arrested, drugs, all this stuff. I withstood being in that band for 2 years. I was 18 years old till I was 20 and a half, 18 and a half to 20 and a half. That's a long time. If you look at a fraction of what percentage out of 20 that is, it's like, that's a long fucking time. That's a big chunk of the pie. And for me to put up with that shit for 2 years, like, would I ever want to put up with that shit again? No fucking thank you. No way. No pay, no fucking way. Period.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need the charity. I don't like to go stand on the side of a stage and fucking sing 2 songs. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'll play my own show. I don't need that. For what? Like, if they wanted to include me as with some type of civility or honor, 40 years of Fistful of Metal, that'd be cool. But, like, I'm not there to be a fucking, I'm not there to be a sprinkle on a cupcake.
Yeah.
I'm just not. That's not for me. Like, hey, they can go hire someone else. They can go hire a monkey and fucking have that guy sing.
Of course.
Because they probably want monkeys. They don't want people with opinions or people that have creative ideas.
Of course. And Neil, welcome to Brazil again, and let's celebrate your contribution in this great classic album. And I will be there. As I said, I will be there on the front row screaming, "Here, my screen!"
Right on. Well, I'm coming for the cachaca and the Zingu beer and the we're coming there for all the good things about Brazil, the acai berries and the friends and the people and the fans, and to be there for to be part of Brazil. That's really in my heart. I look forward to that.
Great, and thank you so much. Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for Suzy dos Santos and Eliton Tomasi from Som do Dharma.
They're great people. I'm really excited.
Yeah, great people by making this interview possible. Thank you, Neil. See you soon in
Thank
Brazil.
You, okay? I hope we didn't put anyone to sleep.
Yeah.
Hope we're thrashing.
Great. Valeu. Tchau.